your papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own. The child that's got his
WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial, coming to you from the campus of City College in Harlem, USA. Coming up is Brother Dick Gregory. He'll be with us in about a half a minute. Once again, today at the National Black Theater, there's a salute to Ilombe Brath, Gil Noble, and Dr. Ben, asking all of you to be in the house. And there are those of you who live right up the block from National Black Theater, and the cost of getting in is so low, I'd be embarrassed to tell you how low it is to get in. This is concerned brothers and sisters who have all of our interests at heart, and you'll have the opportunity to sit and interact with Dr. Ben and representatives of Gil Noble's family and Ilombe Brath's family, and of course Brother Sin K right in studio is one of the sons of Ilombe Brath, and this is WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial. Telling you once again to get the Amsterdam News, the the Daily Challenge. God bless you, black man. And the Amsterdam News this week, page 37, you'll see an article by Brother Leroy. And in the future, you're going to see some columns by some folks who have been guests to us here on WHCR. Once again, WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial, coming to you from the campus of City College in Harlem, USA. Also want to thank you very much for participating in our fundraising, the Sisters Musical. I understand that it might be continued, and that is the musical itself, and if so, we might have some more vouchers for you and others to take advantage of during this period of time when folks are coming to town. They ain't got nothing to do but come around your house. And where can we go? Well, you go see Sisters the Musical. God bless you. Thank you for your call. You are on the Black Air.
God bless. Dick Gregory.
God bless you, my brother. Thank you for joining the Harlem Community Radio audience.
Thank you, always.
Here with Brother Sin K, and we have always some questions for you. I want to get started this way, Brother Dick. In terms of your experience, there is some research that I was doing on COINTELPRO, and there's a whole separate chapter in COINTELPRO about neutralizing Dick Gregory. And I've seen it before, but I just went by it to where I was going. But this time, it resonated because the interviews that we've done with you have given bits and pieces of your life in the civil rights movement, which has not been subversive to America at all. You know, you've been straight ahead in terms of running for president and putting money behind different efforts. Mm-hmm. But the context today is this Occupy Wall Street, and what made me go to the COINTELPRO thing is the Occupy Wall Street and your experience in seeing the whites protested, the young whites protest during the 60s, especially in Chicago, and what comparisons are there in terms of what's going on now from your vantage point and what happened back then and what we might look for in the future?
Well, to your question, let me say this. Last night I got a call from a white guy in Atlanta, and I called him back twice, and I left a message. So today I called him back, and he answered, and he said, are you okay? I said, yeah, why? He said, well, a friend of yours called me and said you had a heart attack. And so I said, who? And he told me. So I said, I called him. He said, you called Tom and tell him you heard I had a heart attack. I said, why didn't you call my wife? Oh, I didn't want to scare her. But I mean, if I had a heart attack, you think she don't know it? So I said, well, where'd you hear it? He said, well, some friends of mine called me from Texas and from Memphis and said they heard on the radio. Now, the reason I say this is one of the things that they do They thought they'd kill me one time in Boston. They killed my driver. But, you know, they use these folks under mind control, and they just say it's a Rolls Royce. And so at 9 o'clock that night, it went on the radio all over. Dick Gregory been killed, hit and run, homicide. So a white Boston cop called my house at midnight and said, Miss Gregory, said, yeah, I'm a white cop in Boston. I can't tell you no more. And your husband was killed tonight, and it wasn't hit and run homicide. I mean, hit and run. It was murder. And so she, hung up. So it was a crank call. Then she came in the room to look for me because I was due in at 9 o'clock that night, but I was with Marvin Gaye, who had just got married that day in New Orleans. And I had been in Baton Rouge, so I just stopped in. And the party was so good, I just said, okay, I'll get out here tomorrow. I forgot to call Lil to tell I wasn't coming. So that's the way they do things. And a couple of times, my aunt, who used to work for us, said, Lil, is Greg okay? She said, well, a friend of mine called me and said she heard on the radio that Dick Gregory had died. Well, that's the way they do it. They put it out there, and then they'll have some doctor say, well, Dick came in when he was in L.A. to see me, and I told him his heart was in bad shape and all of that. Okay, now, as we talk about, the viciousness of COINTEL, when Dr. King was killed, murdered in Memphis, well, we have a document. For years, the government denied it, and then some folks in the government brought it to me. It's a 30-page document how the 111 military intelligence had moved into Memphis in March the 28th of 68 and came out April the 12th. Well, King was killed April the 4th. But March the 28th, there was no demonstration going on. They was there for civil disorder. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the 28th, there wasn't even a garbage strike, huh? Now, we look at Hoover and all the stuff that Hoover do, but Hoover don't have the power to send the military no place, okay? No place whatsoever. When they said all the stuff they got on King, they're releasing 50 years, Hoover don't have that power. Hoover don't have that power to put some documents that we're going to, and so consequently, what happened is they created this fake garbage strike. The strikers didn't know. They didn't know that two people was going to get killed because every day when they eat their lunch, they eat it in the back of the garbage can of the truck. And somebody said the wire was hit accidentally and the truck crushed them to death. Now, when King was coming to D.C. for the Poor People's March, that don't scare nobody. Even poor folks don't think they poor. And so when King was coming in, the senators and the Congress folks was debating. He don't need to come here. Everywhere he go, he creates violence. Well, there were some senators that stood up and said, wait, his movement has never created violence. So now they got to create something where the violence was perpetrated by the marchers. And they got a little group of thugs down there called the Invaders, just like the Blackstone Rangers and the Bloods in the Crip. All those are government provocateurs. They don't know it. I had one of the guys who founded it in the book, The Committee of 300, on page 86. They talk about how the Bloods was put together at Stanford and Yale. Now, you got to be careful what book you get because, the government go in and change books. And so what happened is that when King came in the march, he was just coming in for one day because he had to put his plans together for Washington, D.C. And so in the process of that, the riot broke out. That was the Invaders, a little bunch of thugs that were government provocateurs. And they started breaking windows and whatever. And if you really investigate that, you will see that the Memphis cops hadn't done nothing. They hadn't dropped tear gas. They hadn't slapped none of them. It was just a peaceful march, and then all at once they started breaking windows and looting. Now, King was upset. Now, he got to go back and prove he can lead a peaceful march. But they got a problem now. How are they going to kill him? Because we have a deal made that whenever we go into the South, we check in white hotels. Why? Because a lot of the Negroes who live in them towns, they don't go in because they could be fired. They could lose their job. And so consequently, every time we would go to a city, we would check in the white hotel. Well, King would always check into the Holiday Inn, the Riverfront Holiday Inn. So now King got to go back in on the 4th. He's going to lead the march and get out of there. So the morning before he get ready to go in, there's a mysterious ad that shows up on all the radio stations. To the good Negro citizens of Memphis, Dr. Martin Luther King says, boycott the white businesses, but he himself stays in the White Hotel. He'll be coming into town, staying at the Holiday Inn. Well, that forced King now to move to the Lorraine. So he moved to the Lorraine Hotel, first floor, and somebody, they thought he was white, but we know now it was a light-complected person, goes in and say, oh, no, Dr. King do not like the first floor. He wants to be on the balcony. So all of this is happening. Nobody knows it. Nobody has no idea this is going on. So that's how they work. And so when you look at these young folks, some old folks in the Occupy movement, I went into New York, went out to the park, talked to leadership, and, you know, it's kind of interesting. Keep saying, what do they want? What do they want? Well, hey, man, if I come in your radio station there and I'm about to get evicted, and I got 2 days to get it, you got to be stupid to ask me what I want. My mortgage money. You know? I mean, if I'm standing somewhere and get shot, you don't need to ask me what do I want. If I'm in a building and it's on fire and I'm moving, you don't ask me where am I going. And that's what these young folks are saying to America. We don't have to tell you. You created it. We don't have to tell you nothing. And so consequently, when they ask me what could they do, what could they learn from the black movement, I say nothing. I've been telling people this for years, man, to be born white in America, be you rich or poor, educated or uneducated, you're born with 300 years of white privilege. They don't even know it. And the guy told me, Steve Jackson, said, no, man, I don't have it. I said, man, light-complected Negroes was born with a privilege. Why do you think 99.9% of all your black professional athletes for the last 90 years have been dark-complected? Huh? And the white folks that run the stuff, not these little chumps we see on the corner, they know those athletes, professionals, they have had sex with white women, but because of their southern mentality, they don't flaunt them. 99% is from the South and dark-complected. So when Jackie Robinson comes along and they have to move him to Brooklyn, and they know he was born in Alabama, but in 30 days his family moved to California, L.A., so he didn't have that southern mentality. So they put in his contract he would not date a white woman for 3 years. That's in the contract. And so consequently, when I'm talking to these youngsters, I'm saying, you know, you have a different mentality. You know, I can go today and get a redneck, can't read, can't write, white boy off death row and take him to New York and put him on Fifth Avenue and have the President of the United States, the most powerful human being in the world, come to New York by himself with a cap on so nobody recognize him, and the cabs will run him down trying to get this white boy. And yet he's the most powerful human being in the world. So when I was talking to the youngsters there, I said, you know, when we came to Washington, D.C., we called it the Poor People's March. That don't bother nobody. That don't scare nobody. You all come in and talk about take back D.C. That's a white mentality. Y'all go to New York and say take over, occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street? I mean, when I was a little boy, I hear about somebody occupying something that's a mighty nation with their army occupying a poor nation. So even they symbols, they words altogether different. And so consequently, first the white folk got to deal with them in the newspapers and all of that. So they start coming up saying they stink. They said that the third day they was there, they stink. Oh, they stink. See, they can't call them communists because that don't show no power. They socialists. They're communists and they stink. So my question is, did Hitler stink? Ask Jews. Did anybody smell a bad odor coming out of Hitler? Do the dope pushers standing on the corner, do they stink? Have you ever heard anybody in the newspaper, especially them vicious papers in New York, have you ever heard them say the mob stinks? They talk about Dapper Don. They talk about how clean he is, a thug, punk, killed everything moving. And I know if he went to heaven and God, wouldn't he be killing folks there? But yet he was the hero. Huh? They ain't never. Have you ever read or seen anywhere one of the New York cops have ever slapped a pimp? Have you ever seen them? Have you ever seen them with all they ride gear on, going into the mob neighborhood and going to arrest the mob? And so that's part. You see, the filth in America affects Americans just like if you pass by a paper mill. You have never smelt nothing like a paper mill stink. But the people work there don't smell it, huh? So when you peacefully coexist with filth, you become filthy. So America don't smell this. These young children, I don't know what happened to their nose, but evidently they're not part of that. So they come out, and the rest of the American people, I looked at the New York Post after the big march the other day. They call them thugs, man. Have they ever called them out thugs? Have they ever referred to a prostitute? They ain't never called them folks at Penn State thugs that's been ripping off the children. And so consequently, when you think about, now, these little white children, they sweet, they favor white folks. They don't know it. That's why with their mentality, how come they haven't called for a boycott of Christmas, huh? How come they haven't called for a boycott of everybody that advertised in the New York Post, since they called them thugs? And we're going to give you 3 days to apologize, or we calling for everybody across America to boycott everybody that run ads for you, okay? That scares them. Do you realize Penn State's game last week? Do you know all their advertisers pulled out on TV? That's how bad stuff scares them when they know you're serious. And so consequently, see, America, they can cheer. That I never thought I'd see the day where it say the New York police put on riot gear, and it got so bad they had to rough them up. They said that. That's how good they feel, cheering the police. Well, if them youngsters, with the power they had, call for a boycott, or if they call for a nationwide boycott of America for Christmas, the country would collapse, because as bad as the economy is now, just the threat of a boycott, and then don't say, what can we do to stop it? See, that's what upsets them. They say, we just boycott. What can we do to stop? Nothing. We boycott. And then, again, let me tell you that when you get suspicious, you start seeing things. I have lost the right to drive down the street or walk down the street in the wintertime or rain and see a 5-year-old child crying and nobody with it. I do not have the right to go pick that child up and say what's wrong, because I know how they will sit you up.
Yes.
They will have a child sitting there and have the father say, or the mother say, oh, he took this child, and then have somebody say, oh, yeah, he did the same thing with my daughter. That's how vicious it is, so I have to pass the child by. That hurts, man, when you cannot help people because you don't know how vicious this government is. And so, consequently, if you didn't know how vicious this government is, look at the president and his wife. You know, they go out of their way to say for the children, not just black children, every child that eats a school lunch program, you know damn good and well, pizza is not a nutrition meal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know French fries is not a nutrition meal. Now, if you believe it is, all y'all are getting ready to have Thanksgiving dinner. See, when you get someplace, if you get to your Thanksgiving destination and they got pizza and French fries, they really don't like you. You know, you should get up and leave and go to McDonald's and get you a sweet tea. Okay, I mean, and yet the president said we're not going to have this in the schools. They're not going to have pizza. What nobody said, those pizzas that they bring in school, them pizzas was made 3 years ago. They free. Well, look, when you got millions of people eating pizza, you can't make the pizza tonight.
Okay.
They got them in warehouses, huh? They got them in warehouses, and them shipments already been assigned a year in advance. Truck so picks up and heads to Kansas City, heads to New York. Okay? So he said no more pizzas, no more French fries, and no more ketchup, right? So these thugs last week let the lobbyists, I want y'all to hear this good, man, let the lobbyists go in there and on that spending bill, they said the only way this money will get through is you have to knock out the ban on pizzas and French fries and ketchup. Now, here's what they said. 2 tablespoons of ketchup is equal to a cup of fresh vegetables. And so the bill got through. Now, let me tell you what's upsetting these young folks. Hitler, with all of his craziness, I do not believe Hitler would do that to German children. Huh? I do not believe the maddest, mad folks on the planet. Now, I see Hitler do that to Jewish children or other children, but I don't believe Hitler and them Nazis would have passed legislation to say ketchup is a vegetable, pizzas are all right for German children. But we've been with this low-life thug system so long, we don't even know how low it is. But the mothers and the fathers who ain't never been up in arms for nothing else should be up in arms over what y'all doing. Now, I can understand if you want your children to eat pizza and you give it to them for lunch to bring to school. I don't have no right messing around with what you're doing. But to pass laws of a multi-billion-dollar industry and have lobbyists go to Congress and lobby the Senate and Congress, and that bill goes through, and we still looking at the president. If the president would have said, this is what's going to happen, we're going to knock out the fresh greens and rice, and we're going to put this in, everybody would be up in arms, talking about how bad he is and this and that. And so, again, to get back to what they're going to have to do to stop them.
Hold your point right there, ladies and gentlemen. This is
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
The program is The Communicators. Our guest online is Brother Dick Gregory, and this is Brother Leroy and Brother Sinkay in studio here at WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial. On the internet is www.whcr.org. You said to get back to how they would stop the young people. I think that's the point you were going to
first, they don't know how to deal with you when you don't play a numbers game.
Meaning?
Thousands of people showed up the other day in New York and L.A. and across the country, and they say they didn't make their numbers. Oh, they had no effect on. And then they go, all them people out there, they can find, it's like when something happened in Russia, NBC and CBS can always find one Russian in the street that speaks English. What happened today? Something happened to the KGB. I say hi to y'all. Go out in Moscow Square and find one Russian. So they went out in the crowd and found the one person that was trying to get through the crowd to get to Wall Street to work. I have children to feed. I have, you know, and then you see the police standing there with their ride gear on, and then they take off. Didn't stop them. Then that evening they went to Brooklyn and shut down the subway.
Right.
But yet and still, the press is saying they in effect. Now the New York Times, they stay out. They just as bad. They stay out. They're gonna wait till a cop get killed. Then they're gonna say, "Oh, we've been." And so consequently, now you see all this stuff. Well, what about your rights? The people that you demonstrate, y'all raised $500,000, and what bank did you put it in? They're supposed to keep it in boxes. They're supposed to keep it in boxes. You know, I mean, if I put it in the bank, if somebody robbed the bank, I'm covered. Now, if the bank failed, I'm just covered for $250,000. But if somebody robbed the bank, they're not running down the street with Dick Gregory money. Okay? And so they just twist everything around. So here's what they're going to end up doing. For those of you, the golfer Tonkin, when LBJ got ready to be able to bomb North Korea, Hanoi, and other little countries around there, they sank an American ship in the Gulf of Tonkin. Now, y'all have to look that up, because what you hear now, you just say that's outrageous. And then they found out that they did. We sank our ship to rile up the American people to do what we wanted to do. And so, consequently, what ended the war in Vietnam, you go back to Kent State. But before you go back to Kent State, punch up how many Negro colleges students was gunned down.
Yeah.
That was demonstrating. Never heard. Nobody, no editorials about it, nothing. Kent State.
Right. Is
They
what
go in there.
Yeah.
And they had the National Guard come out because of the students. And the National Guard come out, unbeknown to the students, they had a National Guard government provocateur that infiltrated the students. He took out a gun and shot at the National Guard. Instead of the students running, they chased him, and he ran right to the National Guard. They opened up his rank and let him in. When the National Guard got through, it was white children laying dead, wounded. Now, they had trials, and we never knew the truth because all of it was settled out of court. So I say that to say they have probably already infiltrated, not with just the FBI and the CIA, but military intelligence. I do not believe Obama had brought the troops home early. If we've been occupying Iraq for 8 years, we got the largest embassy in the history of the planet. We wasn't planning on leaving there. And so automatically, when you saw Obama on TV, President Obama, and he's saying he's bringing the troops home by Christmas, and he had no general standing next to him. That's not protocol. His folks then told him, the CIA, the FBI, military intelligence, that we're going to have a problem with these youngsters, and that's what them troops is coming home for. Now, if you have 8 years, you know how many trillions of dollars worth of equipment you got over there, how come they're not bringing that with them? How come they're not staying there to oversee that equipment? They need something other than a cop who might not shoot at a little white child that looked like his daughter. But soldiers, they have a different mentality. And so consequently, now, how do you shut it down? Well, you start talking about them like they're talking about them now. They'll take little bitty 11-year-old tall girls. You know, you have a tall 11-year-old, and they'll make them up like they 24-year-old women. And they'll come into the movement, and all at once they'll scream molest. So that'll go out all over the world. And one thing, Russ Limbaugh, I mean, he's so crazy, he's cute, man. When he saw that white boy that went over the world with his head bleeding, he said, there ain't no blood, that's ketchup. I said, Russ, you about to make me like you. I would take me some French fries before we take them to the school and get some of that ketchup off that white boy and take them to Brooklyn to one of the great schools on the French fries. And so consequently, when you look at what they'll probably do is have one of the government provocateurs shoot 2 cops in a big crowd, and the cops don't know that that's not the occupiers. So they'll open up fire. I mean, if they whooping them and doing the stuff they doing to them now, what do you think they're going to do when they see their comrade laying on the ground? And they'll kill about 20, 30 of them, and the world will stop moving. The world will stop moving. And then you'll have the editorials, and then the ballistics will come in, and then you'll say, well, wait a minute now. It's really funny. The guy that y'all say shot the cop, he had no ballistic test, no paraffin on his hand. And then all at once now, about 2 weeks later, about 20 cities in America will have 30 or 40 police stations blowed up and kill about 300 or 400 cops, all for Tonkin, and they'll blame it on the occupiers. And you think the Civil War was a bloodbath? You ain't seen no bloodbath. That's probably the plans. Why would you expect anything good out the devil? Huh? I mean, it bothered me when I was a little boy, and you older folks remember Frankenstein. The little girl walked up and gave Frankenstein the flower.
Yeah.
He took it, and that bothered me. And then one day, I'm a grown man before I realized I'm scared of the monster, but I didn't realize the monster was scared of the great scientist. He was scared of. And I said, wait a minute, I didn't get enough scared to be scared of who the monster's scared of. And so that's where I think this will go, because America cannot do what they asking them to do. And every day they stay out there, they wake up people, because they hear it, not from the New York Times or the New York Post or all of that. You know, I mean, I'm going to look at Murdoch's paper. This thug is up for criminal charges, his son and all of that, what they doing. And then I'm going to look at that thing, talk about these young folks sitting out there who haven't done anything criminal. And then they're not ready for them. You know, they say, well, you know, when the snow comes, they're going to get out. Us white folks, you don't know white folks. White folks have created $1 trillion industry called skiing. You know, I still ain't understand. My children, you know, they come up in the white area, they go ski. I say, I will never pay for the right to get in snow. You turn on a professional football game. Buffalo will be playing the Giants. It can be 14 below zero. You see white folks standing out there, no shirts on, with writing on their chest.
That's right.
You know, and so right now, the other day they passed legislation in Denver that, like, if you pass the Occupy and honk your horn, you can get a ticket for that now.
Right.
But you can honk your horn all you want for the Broncos,
That's
Denver
right.
Broncos,
Right.
and nothing more. And so you see, but they think they're dealing with Puerto Ricans and black folks and Mexicans, and they not. They're dealing with a new mentality. And I've always swore that the Negroes in America got America in trouble because they kicked me in the butt. And I said, go, please. And I'd run home and tell my mother, and she said, well, thank God they didn't kick both y'all. So they got used to kicking folks, and they went over there to Vietnam and kicked one of them Vietnamese, and they grabbed their foot. And it took them 12 years to get out of there, okay? And so this whole thing that black folks have led these folks to believe that they can do anything to anybody and get away with it, but not this white movement that you see. And so this is what's going to happen. It's already in motion. They're already about to do it. And so when you stop and think about, you know, they haven't said nothing vicious about what happened at Penn State. They ain't said they stink. They ain't said, they're not gone in there. You know, they went in there and tore them folks' tent down. I bet they better not mess with Penn State's tent. You know? And this is the children. You know, this is not, you know, priests ripping off boys. This is, you know, the Boy Scouts. I don't know. I didn't follow the case after they busted them to see how little they were. But we talking about pedophiles. Now let's look at this while everybody's looking at the Occupy. 15 years ago, when this stuff first broke, who investigated it? The Attorney General. the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Attorney General. Who was that? Tom Ridge. Huh?
Mm.
And where he ended up? He ended up heading Homeland Security.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
So after Bush appointed him there, who took his place? The guy who's governor now. You know, Cardinal, who's governor. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the cover-up's been going on. There's a area in Pennsylvania where they passed special legislation for the county that Penn State is located in, and said if anybody see a crime committed, and you cannot turn it over to the police because you violate the Privacy Act. Now, that's just for the county, and then they added them other 4 schools, you know, Temple, so-and-so, and Lincoln. That didn't affect them, but they made like.
Mm-hmm.
So they can legitimately say, well, there's a federal law that says it can't. So you get the one cop that says the mother just called in. He's a district attorney. So he goes talk to the mother, and she tells him about the son. So they say, well, let's set up a sting. So the boy called
Sandusky.
and said, I'll be home tomorrow by myself. Why don't you come by? So he came by, and they had the room bugged. And the mother and the prosecutor is outside in another room. And here's what they tape. Why would you do this to me? And he said, oh, I'm sorry. I asked God to forgive me. I just wish I was there. That's on tape, right? The New York Times don't know that. Huh? The New York Times don't know that. And so that's why these youngsters, they listen to another stroke on the internet. They don't have to go to them filthy newspapers who masquerade as a product of God, and they look at the real deal. And so all at once now, 9 years passed. The prosecutor had him, and the New York Times runs a story. They never talked about that story, that about the tape. But they go interview somebody like they do in Russia on the corner. And the guy said, oh, he's such a thorough investigator. He wouldn't have gone to case unless he know. Well, he's above reproach. There's nobody big to him when it comes to law. Okay, all right, fine. Tell that to my grandmother. Okay, give her some ketchup and tell her it's a good meal. and so consequently, 9 years later, after nothing happened, he come up missing. 2 years before that, his brother ends up dead. They say that's suicide. And so to this day, wait a minute, the FBI investigated it. Wait a minute. Have you heard Congress open up their mouth?
No.
These little Negro students on the teams are selling these T-shirts and getting some extra tickets. That's all you heard Congress talk about.
Yeah.
They go take some baseball players taking some steroids, right?
That's right.
That's right. And they have an investigation on
Dick,
that.
Dick, hold on while we identify ourselves as WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial. And ladies and gentlemen, we only have Dick with us every now and then. He moves around the world, the country, and as a result, do you have the opportunity to call in 212-491-4685, 212-491-4685. You haven't had the opportunity to speak with him in quite some time. Dick, whatever question you get, I'm asking you to make your answers as short and concise so we can get in the calls that are coming in. 212-491-4685. God bless you. Thank you for your call. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, brother? What's up, brother? Dick Gregory.
God bless you, my brother.
What's going on with that thing about that guy shooting up the White House and they charged him with attempted assassination of the president? Do they know who this guy is? Do we got connections with anybody? Or, I just want to know what's up. I hang up and listen to your answer.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question. First, you heard that it was 3 days before they said the White House was hit. They said there was gunshot fired 2 to 3 blocks from the White House, okay? But it said the president wasn't in danger twice. Reason he was out the country, and no bullets hit the White House. They wasn't even within range of the White House. Then the next thing you said, they chased. Now, can you imagine the most powerful man in the world? They ain't got a 5 or 6 block or mile radius of folks up in trees and stuff, and folks faking like they're homeless to protect the president. All at once, they say they chased this guy, man, in his car, and he jumped out the car at the bridge and ran and got away. Oh, man, I hope I don't have them type of agents watching over me. They got away. Now, in the car, they found out he was from Idaho, right-winger, guns and everything. Then 2 days later, they said, oh, yeah, bullets hit the White House. Oh, took you 2 days to find that out. And then they said they arrested him, I think it was in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Why did it take you so long? You mean with all the technology, the Secret Service and the FBI in that area you have, somebody can get out the car and run, and you didn't call your satellites in, huh? And so consequently, and then what they give us yesterday, somebody left the president's secret movement book over there where they having the meeting. Did you see that? Somebody found it on the ground. Everywhere he's staying, every move he make, where he's eating lunch. So you tie those in together, and then where do you go? So you're right, brother, who called in. Thank you.
Excellent. God bless you. Thank you for your call. You're on the air.
Hi, Brother Leroy.
Yes, ma'am. Turn your radio off.
Okay. I want to ask Dick Gregory why he thinks Representative Kane has got Secret Service protection already after they heard about all these women that he was going with.
You're talking about Herman Cain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, first, answer is this here. Those women was white women. Don't just say women. They was white women. And they nice white women because Herman Cain never had sex with them. Okay? He just said some things to him. He put his hand under the dress, so now you got white folks go to bed and realize those good white folks. Now, you can't find nobody in the women's movement more than me. From when women was there, I was hollering about, ain't one woman's penitentiary run by a woman warden. And so consequently, all at once now the question have to be asked, especially the women's movement should ask it, how is it this happened to you all these years ago, and you waited until he didn't get in the race? You waited because, see, this man ran in the primaries in 2000, okay, the early days. How come nobody came out then? How come you waited until he got up to be number one? And then y'all don't know each other, but y'all came out as a team, huh? The other thing is that what's more mystery than that, miss, is we all went to bed one night and woke up and Herman Cain was leading all them white boys, and nobody, not even the New York Times, have explained to us, how did he do that? Huh? Plus, the question that should be asked, Herman Cain was chairman of the Kansas City Federal Reserve. That's not a job for a Negro at all. Huh? So nobody's asked that how was he president of the American Wrestling Association for 8 years, and before he took that over, nobody had ever heard of the American. When he stepped down, they equal power with the National Rifle Association. And so, and I think maybe he's clever. Maybe he knows that white America, the majority of them, just have room for one intelligent, genius black man. So Obama already got that slot. They can call him everything, but they don't call him stupid. So Kane, now he realized that slot's gone. So let me play the other role. What did he say? When I get to be president, I had a secret service call me cornbread. I went and bought me 2 boxes of Jiffy, man. So now he got Secret Service agents. Well, it could be for 2 reasons. Maybe somebody's trying to figure out these questions and don't know how. See, remember, when Secret Service agents come around you, they ain't guarding you, they watching you. Huh? Where this boy getting all this money? Well, he's getting it. Y'all don't need to watch him. I'll tell you, he's getting it from the tobacco industry, and he's getting it from the alcohol industry. Because when he was president of the American Restaurants Association, that's all the major white restaurants in America, the reason it took so long for them to get smoking banned in restaurants because he had the greatest lobbying force in Washington, D.C. you could ever find, and they kept beating that law down. So the cigarette industry is in dead, and none of them laws started getting through to knock out smoking in restaurants until he stepped down after 8 years. The flip side, the liquor industry love him because every time the government or the state or the cities would try to lower the blood alcohol level, he was able to lobby it and beat it down. And so that's who this man is. Y'all can sit and think he's crazy if you want to. Now, I'll be honest with you. You know, you can't be no bigger thug when you lower the blood alcohol. You stop them from lowering it because my grandchildren can be killed by a drunken driver. Let the cops stop, but no. And so, but I hope he wins the Republican nomination. So I'm not going to say white folks. So Americans will go to the polls and have a choice of one brother or the other. We can take this genius over here, or we can take buckwheat. Huh?
Hold on. This will be only the last question, ladies and gentlemen. WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial, 212-491-4685.
I wanted to ask Dick Gregory, outside of what's happening in the GOP field, where people come from, what's going on, what we see happening with Gaddafi and also in Egypt now, where they're having their new riots.
How old are you, brother?
41.
41. Did you go to any of the white major colleges?
For grad school, I went to one, but not for undergrad.
Which one did you go to?
I went to Missouri.
Okay, now let me just ask you a question. If Gaddafi has like $300 billion plus in the Kansas City Federal Reserve, did I say that? Yeah, Kansas City Federal Reserve. That's where all the Mexican cartel keep their drug money. Kansas City Federal Reserve. That's where the CIA keep their drug money. When y'all hear them talk about Godfather pizza, just take pizza off, huh? And so, if Gaddafi got trillions of dollars stashed all over the world, why you think he would be so stupid to get his family out, to get all his extra women out? You know, they was talking about that woman that travels with him, you know? And how come she didn't stay with him? How come none of his high echelon folks stayed with him? Do you really believe that was him they showed us? Come on, because nobody, the New York Times even asked, why would he stay there? Why would he stay there? Huh? Saddam Hussein. You know how brilliant you got to be here, the word evil genius? Well, if what they tell us is true, he's an evil genius. He ran that country, man. He's that brilliant. You haven't heard of none of his lieutenants getting caught, huh? You know, they call his brother, call his brother. Like now they just called Gaddafi's son. That ain't nothing but a game they play. You remember they told us when they said, how come you can't kill Saddam Hussein? He got 100 different lookalikes. Remember that? And they catch one and nobody said, well, where's those other 99? So this is a game, brother. They've been playing it. They've been playing it for so long. But you just ask a simple question. I got a cousin in St. Louis, man. When two white ladies got raped, and it's funny, he left town. He knew them cops gonna come through there and beat up some Negro heads. He left town and didn't have a quarter. He didn't even have a car. He sold a bicycle. Got out of town. So what makes you think this man with all this money and banks outside of there would have stayed? That's simple.
Brother Dick Gregory, I want to thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on The Communicators. And we always only have had a taste of, as I mentioned in taste, and my brain goes to this. Very quickly, tell us the benefits of using a microwave oven.
The benefits? You started back drinking again, didn't you? You just say it, Michael. Wait. Huh? Michael Jordan. One of the famous Michaels in the world. You ain't never seen him wave. No, that's pure your electrical energy that you're not supposed to have. That's radiation. You know, that was a microwave they used. The Air Force and the military use them to move different things around the planet, the whole thing, the microwaves, the television sets is bad. And so microwaves, and while I'm doing this here, one night, I better not say this because somebody might do it.
You got to do it in a minute, whatever you...
Okay, if you put one hand in a deep freeze and another hand in some boiling hot water, and tomorrow none of your hands is good. If you put both your hands in a microwave, they're never no good. The same thing happens for your food. But I can understand that because my mother, she used to cook food and put meat tenderizer on it. If meat tenderizer would tenderize a steak, what do you think it would do to your belly? Huh? Are you crazy? I'm not talking use a caller, but the microwave, they make it so glamorous and in just a few minutes. And no, none of it is any good. But quickly, they got to lower the population rate, so I think that might be why the ketchup and all of that, if we can kill them while they're little, we can kill them before they reproduce.
Brother Dick Gregory, I want to thank you very much, and may God continue to bless you and your family, brother.
My pleasure. Thank you much.
Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to WHCR. Stay tuned for the only sports show on Sundays with an intelligent woman heading the discussion. Coming up to you on WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial. And support the station, please. We do ask your support, and this is one vehicle that you can utilize as we bid you a farewell and ask you to come over to the National Black Theater to salute to Dr. Ben, Gil Noble, and Il Hombre Brath. This afternoon starts at 3 o'clock, and the entry fee is so low, I'd be embarrassed to tell you. God bless you. National Black Theater, 126th Street and 5th Avenue.
Love, Lost, and What I Wore, Off-Broadway's most fashionable show, written by Nora and